Heyo, welcome back to the progression series. Today we're going to make a big jump in technological level compared to the cannon from the last video. Don't be scared though, I'm going to talk about the general idea of the cannon and its aspects. I don't intend to give like block by block tutorials for these cannons. I want you to understand what they do and how you can maybe build one yourself. Today I want to show the concept of an artillery cannon, which is a cannon that hits the roof of the opponent instead of the front, like the last one that I showed. Here we have the general quote-unquote naked setup. We just have the components that we want to activate over the course of this cannon's firing process. These 6 spots are going to be where we put projectiles, and these 3 spots are going to be where we put propellant. To prime the projectiles, we have to activate these 6 observers, and then we want the projectiles to be pushed into the center so that they reside on the extended hitbox of this fence right here. I've marked with red glass here the location of blocks that we want to power to prime our propellant. So that's what needs to happen first. These blocks need to be powered so our propellant primes. Then after a long delay, our 6 projectiles should prime. And then we want to both activate these and these pistons. So the 3 projectiles on each side are pushed into the center. And then lastly, we want to activate these pistons to push them all into the center. Here we have a setup that already wired all of the projectile logic. So you can see here a note block. If I right click this, these observers are going to detect an update. And because of that, fire a signal. Then the signal is going to travel into this direction, always with a 1 redstone tick delay. So first this will prime, then this, then this. And lastly, this piston will, while this projectile is still jumping from getting primed, push it towards the center here. The same exact thing happens on the other side. This is not exactly how it is in the final cannon, but it's very, very close. So the same exact thing happens. This projectile primes, then this one, and then this piston pushes this projectile while it's still jumping from being primed towards the middle here. So how do we activate the other pistons? First, we need to activate these and then these. So we just extract from the observer that primes this projectile. We extract the signal, lead it around, and lead it into this endstone block with redstone dust on top, which will then power these 2 pistons. And we extract the update from this piston first extending and then retracting to push these pistons, which means these are actually going to fire twice because there are 2 updates, once from this piston extending and once from it retracting. And I can actually show you that this works. I'm just going to load this and hit this note block, and as you can see, all projectiles prime one by one and then are compressed. So the final step, this might look a little intimidating, but it's really the exact same thing from this point onwards, right? You still see these observer lines that activate these observers that prime the projectiles on both sides, just that this note block is now a hopper. You can still see the observer line that is extracted from the observer that primes this projectile and then activates this compression. What is new, however, is the priming mechanism that makes sure we can activate the cannon at all, and then, of course, the logic for priming our propellant. You don't have to understand this. This is a little complicated. I'm going to break it down though. Once you hit this button, this block will be powered by this repeater. This observer will fire twice, once from the signal activating, once from it going out. I can demonstrate this. And this observer at the bottom, which primes this propellant, will fire because this wall will connect to this trapdoor. Then we pull the signal that we put into this block that primes the top propellant out via this repeater, which extends this observer, and on retraction, it will power these repeaters, which then extend this piston, activating this hopper, after which exactly this happens. And of course, we have water in here so that the propellant that gets primed then gets flushed towards the front of the cannon. This chain and these strings are only here to prevent you from loading into these positions so you don't do something like this accidentally, which would blow up the cannon. So I say we just fire this a few times. We can already see the back of the test block now. And I don't think this cannon can get much deeper. We're going to fire one additional shot though. We did randomly get a little deeper now. So to better visualize what this damage looks like, I'm going to give you a quick X-ray of this test block. So as you can see, we start at the top and we channel a little bit to the bottom. There's still some reasonable space at the bottom here, so cannons could still be alive. This can be fixed by a multitude of techniques that we're going to show off eventually. But yeah, that's our new cannon. As per usual, if you want, join the WarGears International Discord server. If you have questions, ask them. If you have critique, tell me. If you want to see more, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.